To some, Jack Sawyer is just another name on the roster, but to us, he is the ultimate Buckeye.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Feel Good Friday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast, and today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. During today's show, we'll dive into who anchored the Buckeyes offensive line throughout the 2024 season, as well as the impact Cody Simon and Emeka Egbuka had throughout their Ohio State careers. But before we get to any of that, to some, Jack Sawyer is just another name on the roster. But to us, he is the ultimate Buckeye. And that line pops into my head anytime I think about Jack Sawyer's career at Ohio State and the impact he made, as well as some characteristics that I believe describe someone that might be categorized as the ultimate Buckeye. They are team first, and that's their mentality throughout their career. They are sacrificial. They have a relentless work ethic. They're a playmaker. They have pride in the scarlet and gray. And all of those things and a whole lot more describe Jack Sawyer. And we got to see that playmaking ability all throughout the college football playoff, all the way through Ohio State's national championship win over Notre Dame. Jack Sawyer is one of those guys, and we come back 10, 15, maybe 20 years from now, and we look back at the 2024 season, you can't look at this season without talking about Jack Sawyer. You can't talk about anything that happened this year without looking at number 33 on the defensive side of the ball and saying, man, he is a big reason why that thing happened. And it goes back to before the season, in the offseason, at the end of the 2023 season, when that ending happened the way that it did, where Ohio State lost to Michigan once again and dropped the ball in the Cotton Bowl to Missouri. Jack Sawyer, hey, I got unfinished business. I'm going to stick around and stay one more year and try to finish the thing that we set out to accomplish. He was there. But he was a big reason why guys like Donovan Jackson, JT Tuimoloau, and other players, Lathan Ransom, other players decided to stay at Ohio State when they could have gone up to the NFL. And I don't think anybody would have blamed a Ransom or Sawyer or Tuimoloau or Travion Henderson or others. I don't think anybody would have blamed them if they wanted to go off to the NFL. It's hard to play 4 years of college football. It's hard to play college football, period. But if you think about 4 years or maybe 5 years of college football, man, that's a grind. Going to class and playing football, being around the clock, being starting sometimes at 6 a.m. and not going down till midnight, man, that's a grind. Or you're doing that for 4 or maybe 5 years. Yeah, the summer is a little bit different of a schedule, and you get breaks throughout the year, so that's a little bit different too. But man, that's a grind. And then you think about the grind of just a regular season, and then you think about the 12-team playoff. You're playing from Labor Day weekend until January 20th, and you're playing 4 games between Thanksgiving weekend, or just say December 1st. You're playing 4 games in a month and a half. That's wild to think about. But Jack Sawyer said, hey, it doesn't matter if the season's over, if the championship was on New Year's Day or January 7th or January 20th. It does not matter. We have a goal to accomplish. We have not accomplished that goal yet. I'm going to stay in school and try to finish the job. That's exactly what happened. But it also goes back, his kid maybe to Ohio State. He's a local kid, a Pickerington kid. So he understands what it means to be a Buckeye from just being around the program his entire life and seeing Ohio State football from a different lens than a lot of people. But he was one of Ryan Day's first verbal commitments when Ryan Day got promoted. So not only did he dream of being a Buckeye, he saw Ryan Day, met Ryan Day, and realized, I want to play for that man. Ryan Day had never been a head coach, ever in his life. But there was something about Ryan Day that connected with Jack Sawyer, and Jack Sawyer said, I want to play for him. And he played for him, and he grinded, and he worked. And the first 2.5 years of his Ohio State career, we were all waiting and looking and saying, man, is Jack going to put it together? Is this today? Is this today? Then all of a sudden, the second half of his, third year in Columbus, he put it all together. And we saw Jack Sawyer have a phenomenal 2023 second half of that season. And then the offseason happened. He stayed. A lot of other guys stayed. This year, unfortunate loss on the road at Eugene. Unfortunate loss to your rival. He could have folded in, man. He could have said, I know I'm committed. I know I got this team first mentality. I know that I can make some plays. But, man, this is so hard. This is a grind. We've never done anything like this before. You mean to tell me we need to bounce back after this loss when I made an incredible play to help give our team a chance to actually win the game? You want me to come back and play again? That's a grind. But whatever it takes. That was his mindset. Ryan Day's been preaching whatever it takes, leave no doubt. And I guarantee Jack Sawyer throughout his Ohio State career, especially this year, that was his mindset every single day. Do whatever it takes to win, leave no doubt. And we saw Jack Sawyer do just that. He did whatever it took. He left no doubt. At the end of the day, that playoff run that Ohio State had, beating Tennessee, beating Oregon, beating Texas, and then beating Notre Dame in the Natty, that's a run that we have never seen in college football ever. What was it? 4 straight top 17s that you end up playing in the playoff, and then before that you're playing your arch rival. Before that you're playing a top 5 team. That's insane. That's an insane run that Ohio State had, and they could have folded, man. Texas made it close. Texas tried to fight back. Jack Sawyer made a play. He made a play that we will be talking about for decades. And when I say decades, that's exactly what I mean. I think about that holy Buckeye play, that pass from Craig Krenzel to Michael Jenkins in the 0-2 season that helped them beat Purdue, which helped them get and keep that unblemished record. I think about that play still. I think about Zeke, 85 yards through the heart of the South. I think about that play still, and that was 10 years ago. Evan Spencer to Michael Thomas. I still think about that play. Cardale Jones' first touchdown in the Big Ten Championship in the 2014 season. Not only do I remember that because it was so monumental, I was there. That was my first Ohio State football game. It was in Lucas Oil Stadium. Didn't have to drive that far to get to the stadium. And the next thing you know, there's this QB3 who's thrust onto Front Street and saying, hey, lead us to the promised land. We know you've never been on this stage before. We know that you have never been that kind of player because we never allowed you to have that opportunity because of a Braxton Miller and a JT Barrett. But now it's your time. Show us what you got. And Cardale Jones, even 10 years later, we're talking about that phenomenal run. And I guarantee 10 years down the road, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, we'll be talking about Jack Sawyer's play throughout the college football playoff, and specifically that strip, sack, scoop, and score of his former roommate who was playing for Texas. And Jack Sawyer said, sorry, Quinn, I know we used to be roommates. I got to make a play here to help my team win. That's Jack Sawyer, man. I mean, I got a list here right next to me that is just a list of all of the things that when it comes to someone that's the ultimate Buckeye, they possess. Their relentless work ethic, leadership, toughness, versatility, commitment, playmaking ability. They got a team-first mentality. Then they have the pride in the scarlet and gray. All of those things, and I guarantee we can make a list of 20 or 30 things. No matter how long the list is, they're all going to be things that describe Jack Sawyer. It was fun watching Jack Sawyer play football, man. It's going to be fun watching him play football in the NFL. Someone said maybe he could be Sam Hubbard's replacement. I mean, Bengals fans would like that. Trust me, I guarantee if there was a Bengals fan I know and they get Jack Sawyer to replace Sam Hubbard, they would not complain at all. You mean I get that guy that I watched play in the shoe is now going to be playing not that far from the shoe? I guarantee they would all enjoy that because Jack Sawyer left a major print mark on this program. His career was fun to watch. The rise throughout his career was a whole lot of fun to watch. Throughout the college football playoff, it was even more fun to watch him play. And I'm going to enjoy thinking about the memories that I had watching Jack Sawyer play and the plays Jack Sawyer made in the scarlet and gray. I'm also going to have fun thinking about some plays that Cody Simon and Emeka Egbuka made in the scarlet and gray as well. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Attending NFL playoff games is an experience like no other. The energy, the excitement, and the connection with other fans are unmatched. I remember the thrill of seeing my favorite team clinch a playoff win live. It's a memory I'll never forget. This year, Game Time makes it even easier to create those unforgettable moments with their new feature, Game Time Picks. It filters out the fluff to show you only the best deals on great seats so you can focus on what matters, being there. I use Game Time Picks to grab tickets for an upcoming playoff game, and it couldn't have been easier. I found a super deal that gave me incredible value for amazing seats, and I can even preview the view from my spot before buying. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank y'all for tapping in Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. While thinking about Jack Sawyer's career at Ohio State, there are some guys that were also guys that made a massive mark and left their fingerprints all over the Woody Hayes Athletic Center and the Ohio State football program. Emeka Egbuka is one of them. And Emeka Egbuka is a guy that throughout his Ohio State career, he was never the number one receiver. But at the end of the day, he broke 2 career receiving records at Ohio State. Now, that's not something you would say just about or even think about someone that's not the number one receiver throughout any season that they're in Columbus, Ohio, or any school around the country. But that's Emeka Egbuka. He was a steady player, kind of a smooth operator at times, but he also knew all I got to do was my job. I got to stay steady. I got to stay reliable. I got to make sure that I am doing my part to help Ohio State's offense move the ball down the field and let the chips fall where they may. That's exactly what happened with Emeka Egbuka. Kind of that selfish thing, the team-first mentality. We all know he's a playmaker. Think about your favorite Emeka Egbuka touchdown. Or maybe your favorite Emeka Egbuka catch. Or maybe it may be a handoff that he got from a quarterback. Whatever it is, you might have 2, you may have 3, you may have 4 in each category because he was just that good. I mean, Will Howard threw some dots to Emeka Egbuka. And I even had someone comment on something about Will Howard recently, and we touched on him yesterday on yesterday's show. And they talked about how Will Howard's kind of a quiet assassin. Like, you're amazed at his stats when you look at them at the end of the day, because Will Howard's out there slicing and dicing. You next thing you know, his completion percentage is near 80%. He's thrown you 275 passing yards, throwing 3 touchdowns. You're like, whoa, this guy? He just makes it look so easy. He makes it look so smooth. Yes, Will Howard does that, but Emeka Egbuka does too. At the end of the day, Emeka Egbuka's career numbers at Ohio State they're amazing. 205 receptions, 2,800 receiving yards, 24 touchdowns, a whopping 14.0 yards per reception. When you think about that last part, that 14.0 yards per reception, he's basically a walking first down. If you're throwing the ball to him, you're basically saying it's time to move the chains. That's insane. And I know you may say, Jay, like, it's because of the quarterbacks. No. Yeah, he had Stroud. Yeah, he had Fields. I don't think he was there was he there for Stroud? No, he wasn't there for Fields. He was there for Stroud. He was there for McCord. That was the other quarterback. And he was there for Howard. So he had some really good quarterbacks throwing him the football. And McCord, even in this year, wasn't at Ohio State. He was one of the best passers in the country playing for Syracuse. So he had some good guys throwing him the football. And he was still, no matter if it was Howard, McCord, or Stroud, a walking first down. That's insane. But his career numbers are even more insane for a guy that was never the number one receiver ever in his time in Columbus. He is number 1 in receiving yards all time in Ohio State history. Number 2 is Michael Jenkins. Emeka Egbuka has 2,868 receiving yards throughout his Ohio State career. Michael Jenkins had 2,746 receiving yards throughout his Ohio State career. That record stayed alive for 20 years by Michael Jenkins. That's wild. Just as wild as it was that Jeremiah Smith or Chris Carter's record that was, over 30 years old? Maybe 40 years old? Yeah, 40 years old. All of a sudden, you're having these records that have been standing for decades fall right during a national championship winning season. Emeka Egbuka also holds the record for most receptions throughout an Ohio State career with 205. Number 2 on that list is KJ Hill, and that record stood for about 5 years. KJ Hill played from 2016 until 2019. Now, Emeka Egbuka is tied for number 7 in all-time receiving touchdowns in Ohio State history at 24. He's tied with Brian Rubisky, who played from 05 to 08. Number 1 on that list, Chris Olave, played from 2018 to 2021. He had 35. Just to let you know and kind of compare the numbers about where Emeka Egbuka's Ohio State career stacks up with some other Ohio State legends, that's Emeka Egbuka. Once again, I've said it numerous times already. I'll say it one more time. He was never the number one receiver at Ohio State throughout any season. Marvin Harrison Jr., Jeremiah Smith, those guys are number one receivers. 2021, I believe, was the Jackson Smith and Jigba year. You also had Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson running alongside him, too. So you had, three guys that were future pros on there. So he's learning from some of the best, but also never number one. And he was always reliable. That's insane. What's also insane is thinking about Cody Simon's career at Ohio State and how he had to overcome so much adversity. And the adversity that he had to overcome, it's a lot of stuff that led him to being the Block O at Ohio State this year. And Jack Sawyer and Emeka Egbuka, those are guys that I thought could be in the running for being the Block O. I think my preseason pick was Jack Sawyer, who at the end of the day, you can't really go wrong. You can't go wrong with Cody Simon. You can't go wrong with Emeka Egbuka. You can't go wrong with Jack Sawyer. You can't go wrong with any of those guys. And the very next player we're going to talk about, you can't go wrong with him either. There were so many guys that were able to be up in the running for being the Block O, and they're worthy candidates. But Cody Simon got it. I think a lot of it's due to the adversity he had to overcome throughout his career at Ohio State, because his career started off with the COVID, and then 2021, 2022. Think about those seasons. 2021, after the Oregon loss in game number 2, next thing you know, I believe Kerry Coombs was no longer the D coordinator, and Matt Barnes held that title, but that was not a public thing that Ohio State made public. It was more behind closed doors. We all realized at some point Kerry Coombs was not doing the same things with the defense. Matt Barnes took over, and I believe after that Rose Bowl win, Matt Barnes was moved on to Memphis to be the DC there. Not a bad thing, man. If you're kind of being the guy that's running the defense when you were not supposed to be that guy, you take over mid-season and you propel that into getting a job somewhere else to be the defensive coordinator at Ohio State, I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you at all, because Ohio State ended up getting Jim Knowles, and we saw how that worked out for the Ohio State Buckeyes. But Cody Simon, he was behind people too. Not only was Cody Simon a guy that had injured, got banged up, he had to work. He had to grind. He was behind Still Chambers. He was behind Tommy Eichenberg. And at time while he was behind them in the depth chart, there were times Cody Simon, even before this year, he was the best Ohio State linebacker, while Tommy Eichenberg and Still Chambers were playing linebacker at a high level. There were some things that were lacking at times, and those two guys were on the field, which is why I think Cody Simon's impact and mark was so big, because he was just doing his job, just playing football. His instincts got better. He got sharper. He got quicker. He found out a better way to lead the Buckeyes defense. He was basically Jim Knowles on the football field. He helped Sonny Styles out in a big way. He helped Arvell Reese out in a very big way. He helped so many guys out this year in a huge way, which helped the defense be one of the best defenses in the entire country. This year, his numbers, just to leave you with this mark for him, 112 tackles, 13 TFLs, 7 sacks. He had 7 pass breakups, 1 forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovery. Those pass breakups, just like Jack Sawyer, that's one of those things that you teach it, you coach it. Some guys get it and some guys don't. Jack Sawyer and basically all the Buckeyes D linemen, they do a great job of getting their hands up to bat the ball before it goes past the line of scrimmage on any pass play. A phenomenal job. But even Cody Simon, no matter if he's spying, he knows the perfect depth. He knows when to come in, when to stay back, when to slide over, when to go left or right. He understands all of the nuances and the angles of football at such a high level. It helped the defense so much, especially early on when they're trying to figure things out. Sonny Styles is trying to figure out his spot that day on the football field. And you can say, Cody Simon, lead me. I know you understand this. Help me get the job done. Help make sure I'm in the right spot. Help me when I mess up. That's Cody Simon. And I can't wait to see what he does in the National Football League. I'm sure he's going to get drafted. I know there may be limitations to his game. I don't care. It's fun to watch play football. We'll talk about the draft stuff at a later date. But today, Cody Simon left his mark on Ohio State. And one word I think we can use to describe Cody Simon, the football player, is a warrior. Because that's exactly what he was out there on the football field. Who was the anchor of the Buckeyes offensive line in 2024? We'll answer that question next. Thank you all for tapping in Locked on Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. One thing we're going to do moving forward is still provide more basketball coverage right here on Locked on Buckeyes, as well as some bonus shows throughout the week. We still do our Locked on Big Ten Squad show that comes out every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. We're going to filter through some other shows, more of a 10 to 12 minute variety throughout the week to keep you up to date with transfers, maybe a coach or two leaving, so you can get your Buckeye news right here at Locked on Buckeyes. Who anchored Ohio State's offensive line in 2024? That's a question that I think in the middle of the season, we may have had a different answer than what we have right now. At the end of the season, we have the entire picture already put together. The puzzle that we were trying to figure out this piece or that piece. The puzzle has been completed. So we have the answer to the riddle. The Buckeyes anchor for the offensive line was Donovan Jackson. And Donovan Jackson is a guy that didn't even start the first couple of games at Ohio State this year because he was injured. There was a sickness that went around. A lot of the offensive linemen got it during fall camp. Some of them were not able to go and practice. There were sometimes the Buckeyes didn't even have enough O linemen to go during a practice to have two full O lines. That's how bad it hit the O line. And Donovan Jackson not only got hit by that, there was an injury. He was out for a couple games. He comes in, plays great. Coming into the season, I think there was a lot of thought and a lot of question about why Donovan Jackson was viewed so high by a lot of preseason magazines and preseason polls. And I'm sitting here thinking, where did this come from? Because a year ago, I don't think Donovan Jackson played at the level that a lot of people around the country say that he played at. But this year, he played at that level and even exceeded what a lot of people thought he would do in the preseason. Because once that man got on the field at left guard, that left side was a strong side. We all know that line from Remember the Titans. Left side, strong side. I'm not going to yell right now. My son is currently asleep, and if I wake him up, I'm going to feel so bad. And I'm not trying to do that right now. So I'm going to try to get a little softer with that left side, strong side line from Remember the Titans. But that side was strong. Simmons and Jackson over there, that was that side that you wanted to go to. Hey, run the ball, run behind them two dudes. They go open up holes, they go move that thing, and they go help Judkins and Henderson move the ball on the ground. Next thing you know, Simmons goes down. Next thing you know, Zen Mahalski goes down. Donovan Jackson bumps out to left tackle, and it was almost like he didn't miss a beat. I think he only gave up one sack throughout his entire time playing left tackle this year, including runs against some really good defensive lines in Tennessee, in Oregon, in Texas, and in Notre Dame. I believe he gave up a couple pressures against Notre Dame, but outside of that, the only sack he gave up was in the Penn State game, which was the first week he played left tackle. Now, his ability to anchor the O-line and being the anchor for the Buckeyes offensive line isn't just because of his play. A big reason why Carson Henderson played as confident as he did this year was because Donovan Jackson helped him. A big reason why Tigger Chabola didn't get all the way down when he started to make some mistakes and he realized, hey, we're going to rotate that guard in the playoff in some of the biggest games of the year was because of Donovan Jackson. A big reason why Luke Montgomery played as confident as he did out there on the football field was because of Donovan Jackson. Donovan Jackson was huge. And I think Justin Fry, as good of a job as he did this year developing and getting your 8th and 9th guys ready to go and to play on the O-line this year, he has to give a lot of credit. I think he would give a lot of credit to Donovan Jackson and his presence and his ability to be willing to move outside, be versatile, be a playmaker, to be a team-first guy, had that relentless work ethic. All those things we said about Jack Sawyer, they characterize Emeka Egbuka, they characterize Cody Simon, and Donovan Jackson has those traits too. All of these guys today are guys that have the traits that make this team so special. Donovan Jackson's ability to be a solid player on the O-line, no matter if it was left guard or left tackle, and to be able to work with Jack Sawyer and Tuimoloau throughout practice before and after to get that extra work in to help him get better at left tackle and then better know how to not catch the coming speed rusher, but to better be prepared to attack and to have counters for whatever the pass rusher throws at him. That's huge, man. Here comes Jack Sawyer once again. I mean, I led on Jack Sawyer early in the show on purpose because I think this season and this run is a big reason because of him. And I don't know if the Buckeyes get the national championship win if it wasn't for Jack Sawyer's ability to keep the gang together. Not only did Jack Sawyer keep the gang together, he even helped Donovan Jackson get more practice and get prepared to play a position he had never played in college football. Yo, that's insane. For a guy to go from playing guard his entire career to say, whatever you need, coach, need me to go to left tackle, cool, I got you. And to do it, not flawlessly, but it was very close to being flawless. That's insane. But I can't miss one other player that kind of goes unnoticed, doesn't really get talked about very much in the Buckeyes O-line, Josh Fryar. In the offseason, heading into the year, and I forget if it was winter workouts or summer workouts, there was the post on social media that announced the Iron Buckeyes for whatever session of workouts that it was. Josh Fryar's name was on there. And I remember thinking about that and looking at that graphic and saying, Josh Fryar, okay. Talked to his dad one time from not far from where I grew up, honestly, from Beach Grove High School. I went to Lawrence Central, about 30 minutes away. So not too far from each other. They're on the south side of Indy. Okay, like I know Beach Grove and I understand like your upbringing, I know that side of town, so I know a little bit about your background and things like that. But Josh Fryar, huh? Last year, starting right tackle. I was not really impressed. No, I understood why he started, but at times he was the weak link on the Buckeyes O-line. But he's Iron Buckeye? I think that showed a lot about the respect that the coaches have for him and his peers have for him, but also how he's viewed in that locker room. Because you don't just walk in and just become an Iron Buckeye. Jeremiah Smith got the same thing, man. An incoming freshman getting that title in the first offseason, that's insane. That's not unheard of because Jeremiah Smith did it. But that's how rare it is. And for Josh Fryar to be recognized as an Iron Buckeye and then to play this year and to be the only guy that started every single game at one position, it's insane. It's rare. He may have been the only guy to start every single game in general because center was hurt, left guard rotated, right guard rotated, left tackle got. He was the only guy to start every game at one position. That's wild. Absolutely insane. And he was a stable force on that right side of the offensive line. He got a lot of things done. Yes, they figured out even maybe these guys aren't good, aren't the best run blockers with a zone run scheme. Maybe they're better with a gap zone scheme, which I think Josh Fryar, if he goes to the NFL and he finds a unit that works the best with a gap run scheme, that's perfect for him. Not the most athletic guy, doesn't have the longest arms. He can get beat off speed rushes. He has his own limitations. But let me tell you, if he finds the right situation and he gets there and he works and he puts his head down and does everything that is needed of him to get on the field and he continues to have the same mindset that he currently does, Josh Fryar will be one of those guys. He won't be remembered like some of the other guys that are going to be first or second round picks. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat that and say that he is. No, he won't be. But he's going to be a guy, one of those guys that down the road we look back and say, who was one of the stable forces on Ohio State's 2024 national championship winning team? Who was the guy that was there every single day getting the job done, doing whatever the team needed? On that O-line, it was Josh Fryar. Thank y'all for tapping in Locked On Buckeyes here on this Feel Good Friday. You can follow me on X or any social media platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. There will be rumors floating around about certain Ohio State coaches, and there are going to be Ohio State players that declare for the NFL draft and even hop into the portal or decide to fight for a job in spring practice. This isn't just an upcoming week kind of statement. Throughout the offseason, Locked On Buckeyes will be reacting to news. We'll be keeping you up to date with news and getting prepared for spring practice, as I think the battles during spring practice will be really intense for guys trying to fight to start at the Ohio State University in 2025. This has been a Feel Good Friday edition of Locked On Buckeyes. We'll see you next time.